Hi, everybody. Welcome to NLL Lacrosse Talk on Spanglish Network, seen on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. I'm Gary Groob. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, please make sure to rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, also available on all smart TVs 2016 and above. Now on NLL Lacrosse Talk, allow me to introduce my guests this week. From Team USA, I've got Erin Bakes and Emily Hawryschuk. And from Team Canada, I've got Megan Kinna and Dana Dobbie. Also, the founder of Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network, Michelle Bowyer. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Gary.
It is my pleasure. Like I was telling Erin off air, there are certain shows where I've got the date circled because it's going to be one of those shows. This is one of those shows. This is spectacular. I was so impressed with everybody at the Worlds, and it was just such a pleasure. It was like a kid at Christmas watching you guys play. And like I said before, you guys stole the show. Absolutely stole the show. That gold medal game was one for the ages that should be played again and again and again. It's ready to be made into a TV movie. You know, just with all the ups and downs and turns and everything else, all the skill levels, and how to finally show all your talents on an ESPN and TSN model for everybody to see. That's something to be congratulated for.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, before we get rolling into that, the first question we ask all of our guests always is, how did you get involved in lacrosse, and what was the hook that kept you? Why don't I start with Erin, and we'll work our way around.
Sure. So I'm from Miami, Florida, which is kind of a non-traditional area for the sport, for the field sport, let alone box. So I stumbled upon lacrosse because I was a little league baseball player on a boys team. And when I got to middle school, I asked to try out for the boys team, and they said I couldn't because there was a softball team, but we didn't have a girls lacrosse team. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play boys lacrosse. So playing box was nice because there was some familiarity with the stick that I started with in that pocket. But that's how I started playing, definitely on accident. But I think what hooked me was the creativity. I love how everyone can bring their own style to the game, even as it pertains to the core fundamentals. So that's why I'm still playing and loving it.
All right, Dana, let's go over to you. What got you in?
So opposite to Erin, I grew up in lacrosse capital of Ontario in Fergus, where you're born and you're given a lacrosse stick. So it's definitely in my blood and in the family tree. So I didn't really have another option. And I'm really appreciative of that whole experience. So older brother, Jason Dobbie, who played. My dad was an absolute unit. Everybody here probably knows my cousin, Dane Dobbie, who's continuing to tear it up on any team he plays for. So I guess what really stuck with me was just the friendships and the community. There's no better people than lacrosse people. And so I started when I was 4, and I'm retiring at age 40, and I can't think of a better place to spend all those time and make all those memories than on the lacrosse field and in the arena on the box floor.
Absolutely. Emily, let's go over to you.
Sure. Thanks for having us today. I am from upstate New York. I graduated from Victor. And I grew up playing a lot of different sports similar to Bakes. I was in baseball for a little bit, softball, soccer, basketball. But one day I came home and there was a lacrosse stick on my bed. I didn't know much about the sport. I was in 7th grade at the time. My dad said, "Here, if you love it, never put the stick down." And that was some of the best advice that I ever received. So never put the stick down. Although I did not pick up a box stick for the first time until I got to Syracuse. So my freshman year, although I live in upstate and grew up around the box game, watching my brothers play or my dad's coach, I didn't step on a box floor until my freshman year at Syracuse. But I had some great box legends leading the charge with us in Gary Gate and Reggie Thorpe. So quite a few years difference between starting both disciplines, but I'm incredibly happy that I did.
All right. And Megan.
Yeah, so I started playing box lacrosse when I was 4 years old. I followed in the footsteps of my older brother, Mitch, and what kept me playing the game was just the love and the joy that it brought me. So I continued to, have that passion for the sport and continue to play in the backyard with my brother and rep it out with him. And it's been a joy of mine and something that I love to share with other people too.
Is it our show now?
Oh, are we?
We're
Yeah.
taking it over.
Who wants to be the host?
Well, Michelle, you have to tell us your story. So
Michelle probably kicked off Gary.
You're out now.
It's your time now, Michelle. Ask the hard-hitting questions.
Okay. We'll get to the history of me in the game longer than some of you. But similar back. Grew up Port Coquitlam. My parents were big fans. My sister eventually played. Took her a while. Still friends and carried on eventually, and the sport always did. But of course, we transitioned into field lacrosse championship in '82. Didn't go back to box. It kind of died out a little bit. Full circle back into global network, and I'm happy to grow the game globally. Wherever Gary went, oh, there he is.
You guys thought you could get rid of me that easy. Eh? My internet here is crazy, so please forgive me.
That's all right. We just carried on without you.
As,
Pick up the
as
ball
you
and
should.
run.
Well, I was listening to Michelle's take on her career. My first question to her actually is, how difficult was it to get women's box off the ground? Because I know this wasn't an easy feat.
That's a great question, Gary. Going back in time, we had a bantam league, and then there wasn't anything in my home. And into the big city of Burnaby league, actually really strong women and super competitive. We did have now day and I think national championships. I have a senior women's championship in Canada game right now, which I think of the time span between 50 years ago to today, and we don't even have it, in the country where the sport came. Lots of work to be done.
Right. Okay. Now, with Team USA, I know that in Canada we've got a number of programs now, and it's moved its way up. But Team USA, how difficult was it to get it rolling, box wise? Because I know field is just crazy out there, NCAA, both men and women's. But to get the box program going with US Box Club, how difficult was that? Emily, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when we started, we knew that experience was going to be a big factor that we would have to gain a lot of ground on, given the fact that, Dana, to your point, you started, this is the game that you guys grew up playing. But especially at the youth level, and at least in my area, in upstate New York, box is a pretty common game on the boys' side. But the opportunities for girls to play the game, it's few to none. And I feel like that's a pretty common theme across the country. Now there are opportunities, and with the help of Michelle and the Women's Global Box Network, opportunities are growing, but it's definitely been something where we knew that as a team, it was our opportunity also to really show the world what women's box lacrosse can do in the United States, us as Americans, so that the game can continue to grow. And hopefully, inspire the young girls to want to play.
All right, great. And Erin.
I think in terms of getting it off the ground, but as it pertains to our team, we had there was no shortage of interest. Like, our team went through 4 iterations of cuts, ID camps before that, where hundreds of women are showing up to earn this opportunity to play. And so I think that obviously only speaks to just the fact once you give someone an opportunity that women are going to want to do it, girls are going to want to do it. But yeah, it's been interesting to see how, the development has been slow on the box side at a youth level, even for boys who already have the gear. It kind of just depends geographically. Is there a rink nearby, et cetera? But, have been speaking with some of my former teammates in rec leagues, and it sounds like there's a lot of growth around and excitement for the growth, and that the World Championship really was a catalyst as we anticipated it to be. So looking forward to see how that develops. And I think a lot of people, can now see how the game, men and women, how it benefits you on the field side. And, all 3 versions of lacrosse can exist together and all thrive together.
Right. Dana, I want to throw it over to you. You've been in it the longest from everybody here. And when you first came up, there wasn't near the programming that we have now. Now we've got the ALL in the women's division, the MSL in the women's division. We've got all kinds of different programs going on now. But back then, there wasn't nearly that kind of opportunity. How did you make this thing work?
Yeah, no, it's been a wild journey. So like I said, Kinna and I, we both started playing boys box lacrosse when we were 4 years old, and we continued to play that as long as possible. Even though my mom wanted me to quit and change over to anything other than box lacrosse with the boys, since probably like age 9, I kept playing until I was 14. And it wasn't until I got a letter about trying out for the Canadian national women's team, U19 at the time, but it was only field lacrosse, and I had no field lacrosse around me at all. I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it. And I learned at that moment, if I wanted to compete for Team Canada, my 2 options were keep playing ice hockey or switch over to this field lacrosse version. And that's when I tried out for the first time, and I didn't make that team. But after that, I found the closest field team around me, which was an hour away. And to be honest, that's a lot of our stories on the Canadian side. We were just so heartbroken. This sport we grew up playing, this sport we love so much. Our brothers, our cousins are able to continue to participate and play box lacrosse, but because we're the sisters and the daughters, we have to go play this field version, which I love. Gary, don't like miss me speaking here. I love field lacrosse, but we loved playing box lacrosse, and that whole transition over, you were just kind of gutted, like, okay, this is what I have to play. And people have to understand, for women's field lacrosse, you have no pocket. And at this time, the sticks were not that good. We had to play in skirts, no equipment. Defensively, you could barely make contact. I got yellow cards for throwing behind the back passes in my first couple of seasons. Like, the sport was like mind blowing. So where field is, where sixes is now is at a completely different stage and an unbelievable game. But I think what people don't really understand about our Canadian national team is a lot of us might have grown up playing, but like I said, I stopped playing when I was 14 years old. I hadn't played in a competitive box lacrosse game until my first tryout for this international campaign. And like Kinna, who still plays box throughout most of her life, the competition in Canada, whether it's field or it's box, is so poor. And, it's great that we have leagues and it's great that we have opportunities to play. But compared to Em and Erin and these guys, what they're able to do in the U.S., we have way less players. The competition, like I said, is way less. So for us playing as a team, our first time playing as a national team together was the 2 days before the World Championship was our first practice. So we have experience in our history and our tradition of playing the sport, but it was so new to us as well, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Megan, you want to take that idea and run with that?
I would just say the funny difference between just viewing, the U.S. girls playing box, you can kind of see the field in their way that they play a little bit, but it just reminds me of like when we go down to the States and we play field lacrosse. I'm sure to them it's like, whoa, they're playing box lacrosse on the field right now, like it's just funny, the comparison with that. I would say, certain people have a great great ideas in BC to grow the game, and kudos to like people like Savannah Smith, who have created a really great league called the ALL, and it's really taken off in the last couple of years. But goes to Dana's point where, you know, the level of competition isn't at the highest it could be. There's new players. I have a girl on my team who just picked up a stick for the first time this year. So, you know, it's not to the where it could be, I think, like going off of Dana's point as well. Yeah.
Right. Now, I think you all are great athletes, incredible athletes with that women's field stick. I've tried to shoot with that thing, and I can't keep control of anything. It goes everywhere. So I'm so used to with the box stick. But, you know, I look at that and it's like, wow, you guys are way, way ahead with that. Now, when you all of a sudden bring it to a box stick, does the shot get that much better now that you have that much control? Dana, start with you.
I would say now, like the technology we have in lacrosse in general, on the men's side, women's side, field or box is just incredible. So when I first started playing field lacrosse for the first time, and it was a tennis racket, I'm with you, Gary. That ball was going everywhere. I think I broke a couple windows in the house for sure. But now for us, whether we're playing box, field, or sixes, it's a pretty seamless transition. And for people watching that might only have a girl's field stick and they're thinking, well, I can't afford to play box lacrosse because I maybe can't afford to buy a stick. Like, no worries at all. Just punch that pocket in a little bit more, use the same stick, and you'll still be in good shape. So I don't know if anybody disagrees, but I would say it's pretty easy to translate between all disciplines now, no matter what stick you're using. Like, lacrosse is still lacrosse, so you figure it out.
Right. Now, it brings me to the question of equipment. Michelle, we've talked about this before, is in women's box, the equipment, we don't have manufacturers that are making equipment that fit you guys well. Right? We've got men's stuff and smaller stuff and trying to make it work. And how are you guys getting around that? Let me start first with the U.S. women, and then Emily, I'll start with you.
Sure. So we were lucky enough to have Gate Lacrosse as our sponsor. So, you know, we did get our equipment from them. But to your point, it's built for men and it's designed for men. So we definitely took quite a bit of time, I would say months worth of time, really testing out gear, trying to figure out what would work best. For a minute, we were even trying to test out women's diameter shafts on our box sticks, just to try to, you know, adjust the grip diameter and everything. But I think helmets was one thing that stood out, where we had a few players on the team where we couldn't get a helmet to fit them. Either a couple of them, it was just they were too big, and then others it was too small. So I think eventually, especially with the growth of the women's box lacrosse game, I think there's a huge opportunity for equipment manufacturers to get into the women's manufacturing side of box gear.
Absolutely. I think it's an untapped market. If you're only making it for one side, there's half the money sitting there still, in my eyes. So, Erin, what's your thoughts on this?
Would agree. There's obviously some intricacies of the gear that weren't quite perfect for us. I think, you know, at the time, we're laser focused on the goal we're trying to achieve. So if we're putting some tape in weird places to get it to fit a little bit better so that we're not tugging on our gear during the game, then, you know, we've all dealt with probably worse adversity than that before in playing. So it was fine. But now that we're, you know, it's all said and done and we have this space now to reflect and ask the question of how we can grow the women's game and how we can make the women's game that exists now better in the box world, that's certainly an extremely salient and important issue because, you know, it's already a barrier to even get the equipment. So if you're not being able to advertise something that's even equipment specifically designed for women, specifically designed for girls, then it kind of adds to that barrier and makes it, you know, a little bit worse. We don't want to be wearing our older brother's gear forever. Although it does work for a certain time, but you know, certainly something that's now on our minds. And thanks for asking the question, because definitely something that's important.
Megan, is it any better here in Canada?
I would say there are a lot more options for gear here, just in relation to like different stores. But for women, it's the same, right? There's not girl specific equipment. I think I used the same pads that I had since I was 12, up until right before the World Cup. I just got new equipment, so it was like a blessing. I was like, oh my gosh, so good. But I would say, like, it just goes to show, right? You're just used to the normal, like, thing, right? So you're just used to wearing that gear since you were 12 or whatever for as long as you can remember, and that's how it is. But it's people like Michelle and Dana and people, you know, breaking through that barrier to say, hey, like, we actually are built differently than the men, so we can provide or do other things, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Dana, as Megan's alluded, what's being done, do you think, that we can get the women's equipment to fit and take that barrier away?
I think we've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it in ice hockey. You know, I can remember when I first started playing ice hockey and all the equipment was promoted and sponsored by your NHL players. So you didn't know any different. They wore it, so you wanted to wear it. And now this is a really interesting shift in just women's sports in general. You're seeing basketball shoes that are for the first time being endorsed by women's college basketball players, and now we got NHL Barbies for the WPHL that's coming out. So there's just such a shift in a trend that there's girls and women out here ready to buy these products and wanting to buy these products. And now that you have these top female athletes in all of these sports, you're going to see manufacturers creating products for women by women. And I know Michelle has spoken with a bunch of different companies who are really excited. I will just say, like, in box lacrosse, is there ever any equipment that can really protect you in all areas? I don't know. I feel like there's always just like something that's going to get a slash or a hit that you can't put an extra pad on, but that's what our equipment managers are for.
Right. Michelle, we've talked about this a bunch, and has anything moved in the right direction since we've talked last about equipment?
Yeah, absolutely. Being at World Championships for a big part of it was network. You know, attended. I networked like fortune to and try on some of the currently working on that women specific. You know, right. I've been pushing. You know, I've talked to just about everybody else. Man, often it's not a huge market. You look at other sports now working off, and I'm sure there's a lot of the opportunity to get in at the front end, and, you know, franchises. Well, now, damn, I should have bought in. I think the same thing with women's bar, primarily because Canada, the U.S., and the Hawryschuk teams that were at that World Championships represented in Utica. There were 6 other countries will be ready for the next World Championships, continuing to grow outside of North America. At the women on this program with me, I told in that growth, they're all working in the other disciplines, and that's the whole secret of collectively we can accomplish when both women actually really do need to protect themselves. They took that real so they've got a prototype for the goalie equipment coming out, and then after equipment for players. So it's a big step forward here. Exciting to see that at our sport and going, oh, wait a minute, to do more. We need to do more.
Right.
And Gary, there's such an opportunity. Like, I think the more just in lacrosse in general, if we can take the gender out of it, and if we can create products that kind of streamline all of our disciplines, I think that would be the best for lacrosse players globally, best for lacrosse coaches, for us to really grow this game. So one thing I'd spoken to Gate about, and Chuck, you spoke about it, just the diameter of a box handle, like it is very thick compared to a field handle, but you obviously need that strength and support. And we're seeing that on the field side more than ever, that these defensive players need more strength and control within their equipment because the hits are harder and the players are faster, and we're able to play at a higher aggressive level and field sixes and box. So I think as soon as one manufacturer catches on that, if they can make a hybrid piece of equipment that will allow us to go between all disciplines, like it will just be better for everybody. So as a lacrosse player, you know, I'm 6 years old, little Dana Dobbie, and I'm playing lacrosse for the first time, and I'm playing sixes and field and box, but I can use one stick or I can use one set of equipment. Like that's exactly what our sport needs, just to simplify things.
Now, we talked about the Worlds a little bit. I want to get into it now. First of all, I want to talk about your coaches. Playing for Ginny, talk about that, because I was able to watch her career as it was in the early 2000s, coming up making history in the NLL. Having her as a coach, because boy, oh boy, looking at her behind the bench, you know, she looks like she's just full of energy, full of, raw, get it going. So, Erin, why don't you start? Tell us, what was it like?
I think leading up to the ID camps, we'd read up about Coach Cap. We knew the impact and mark that she made as, you know, a female on the men's U.S. team, NLL, et cetera, all of the accolades. So she had immediately earned our respect. I think when we showed up and the first time that she started speaking about her vision for us and what we can do despite having never played or met, that was when she immediately earned our loyalty. And she was just constantly and incessantly inspirational. She's obviously, you know, you're joking that she was full of energy on the bench, et cetera, which she would be in certain moments, but she's also like super level-headed and kind of remains at the same tone. And, you know, to some people, maybe that's intimidating, whatever. She was the most caring coach I've ever had in such a short period of time to be able to let us know that. It was just really special. It really stretched way further than just playing. And so, you know, I thank her for continuing to inspire us and really empower us as women with what she did. So nothing but good things to say about Cap. And like, obviously she passed on so many X's and O's, knowledge, et cetera. But I think what we all took away from her was a lot bigger than X's and O's for sure.
Absolutely. Emily, what was your take on her?
I echo Bakes entirely. I think Coach Cap is not only an incredible coach, but I think just her as a person and the presence that she carries, and, you know, her resume will speak for herself, but to be able to step into the role that she did, you know, and get a group of women to instantly believe that, knowing that she has all of our backs entirely. I think what she did was incredible, and I think she also has an amazing coaching staff behind her in Christy Foote and Tony Sorcy and Ryan Wheeler. So I think she is an incredible coach, an amazing person. She's very meticulous in everything that she does, but I think, echoing Bakes again, what she's done to inspire us and to inspire so many more. I know that she's really made an impact on me as a player, as a person, as a leader, as a coach. And I really am so grateful for her.
All right. Now with the Canadians, Troy, I've known him for years and years. I've known him as a professional coach. I've known him as a junior coach. I've known him as a player, all around. Dana, Troy on the bench, animated to say the least.
Oh, let's just passionate from that guy, eh? I mean, he gave us his all. He had a really difficult job to do. Obviously, our national teams are starting at a pretty low budget compared to the U.S. team on here that we're competing against. So to be able to take probably the largest player pool, just having never competed for a national team in general, and then cut that back, and to not be able to have a team like this is crazy. People don't get this. To not have a team practice until 2 days before a world championship is like ridiculous. And that was kind of what he was given to work with. And it was the most competitive team I think Meg and I can say we've ever played for with the national team. It was the hardest team to make. And when we got down to 50 players, I just think what he was able to create within that team with his coaching staff and the amount of knowledge and passion and belief and trust that he had with us in such a short amount of time is just something that's really admirable. And I'm so grateful for him and his staff and so appreciative. And I just think it's a job I don't think I could have done, to be honest.
Megan, what's your take? Troy was just this ball of energy at all times. What was it like playing for him?
Yeah, he sure is. It was awesome playing for him. He's, a very intense man, and he knows how to instill that in other people. But you also see like a different side of him too. His daughter Daisha is on the team as well. So when we're chilling in the lounge and everything, he's there and he's joking with the girls, and he's really he can be a very intense guy, but he also balances it with being social and whatnot. I'd say too, like like Dana said, he had a very hard job to bring together this group of girls, and he came up with this like team bonding activity right before our first practice or something like that, and we had to write down fun facts about us and then hand them in, and he read them out loud and we had to try and guess the people. It was just so it was awesome. He's a good guy for sure.
That's great. I want to get into one thing that really stood out for me is, yes, you guys obviously walked over a lot of competition just because of your skill levels, but it wasn't just a play and leave. What I noticed was a lot of conversations between you guys and the other teams, showing things, not just talking, but actually showing things and being mentors. Was this just come about, or was it something that was consciously put in the forefront? Dana, let's start with you.
Yeah, with lacrosse being the creator's game and a gift from the Haudenosaunee people, I think we all just really love that, respect it, and want to make sure that in knowing that lacrosse has given us all so much opportunity, friendship, education, jobs, that we can't give back to the sport more than we've received. So as we grow up in our national team experiences, that's what we see from the older players and the older girls. And when you get yourself into a leadership role, it's your turn to give back and help other national teams and other players. And I can remember being young and playing against some of my heroes and role models. At the end of the game, whether you win or lose, those players have their arm around you and they're telling you how great you did. And I think that's just what makes lacrosse so special. And we're lucky to have the opportunity to help grow the sport around the world.
Megan, was it a conscious effort to try and bolster some of the other programs?
Absolutely. I think with box lacrosse, right, it's not played around the world, and not at least to this level that it is in Canada. And I think it's like a part ownership of the Canadians and like probably the US too, to take ownership to spread and grow the game. And Michelle created a whole organization to do that. You know what I mean? So I just remember like after like playing Team Japan in one of our scrimmages, we like shared a lot of knowledge. Me and Dana just chit-chatted with a couple of them, and they're asking so many questions. So they're eager to know and to learn. And it just goes to show like there's so much knowledge that can be spread amongst like other players too. So yeah.
Right. Emily, was it a conscious effort to try and help bolster some of the like teams like Finland, teams like Hong Kong, China, to try and just to elevate a little bit?
Absolutely. Echoing off of both Dana and Meg, there's obviously that certain level of appreciation of all of the teams collectively being there. In Utica, that was an incredible success just in and of itself. So instantly that conversation kind of just flows after the matchup, and being able to just express gratitude to each other to not only be there, but to give each other good competition. I know that after our first game against the Netherlands, and this was something that was brought up again during our time in Utica, our team won't ever forget listening to their captain speak about, her story that, we're creating, but also their level of appreciation for us just in the lacrosse community, where, she said that you guys are the players that we watch on TV. So to be able to be on the same floor as these other nations, incredible lacrosse players, but to Kinna's point, the eagerness to continue to learn, and I think, Dana, I think of you and watching the videos of, wherever you are and you connect with, a player on the opposing team, just sharing that knowledge not only grows the game, but it's instant inspiration. And you see, that light up happen.
Right. Erin.
I got to give a lot of credit to the teams from developing lacrosse countries in this regard. I feel like, they put in the work with a ton of barriers to entry as it pertains to like the funding of their national teams or access to equipment, access to a floor, etc. And they come in and they share the mutual respect that we do for the game, where, they want our best from us. So on the Canadian side, on the US side, a lot of our games leading up to the gold medal match were pretty skewed from a score perspective. But, you're in there, boxes intense and electrifying, and the whole time you feel like it's close because you're getting hit, and if you let up, you're going to get hurt. And it was a really unique sense of camaraderie, because obviously you're beating each other up on the floor, but you feel this sense of togetherness with the people that you're competing against that are wearing a different jersey. And so credit to them for, after the game, everyone's alluded to a willingness to learn, being eager, putting themselves out there to ask the questions. And, it's really natural to give that respect and love back when they gave it to us. So I definitely thank them for that. It was really fun. There was this one moment where we were playing Australia and something was wrong with the shot clock, technical difficulties. So we had like a 2-minute break. We're all huffing and puffing because the play just stopped, and I'm like walking around the floor trying to get to my spot, and my defender's on my back, like right behind me. And I'm like, the game's not playing, but okay. And so I just start running around, and we're playing tag in the middle of the world championship because the clock is like a little messed up, and we're laughing. And then whistle blows again. And we're right back to hitting each other. Another time someone pulls down my sock. I pulled down her sock. I ended up getting the call because the second person always gets the call. And after the game, we're looking for each other. Who pulled my sock down? Who pulled my sock down? And then, now we're in touch, like on social media, like that's like, it was just a really interesting feeling of camaraderie that came from being, first women to play in this box world championship. And, I hope that love and respect, I'm confident it'll continue to translate 2028, 2032, et cetera.
Right. Now, take me through this. There was so much anticipation going into this tournament, and there was so much expectation. You finally get over to Utica. You finally get on the floor. I know Canada had the first game against Finland. You finally get to play. What's the feeling? Is it euphoria? Is it relief? Is it, intensity? What is it, Dana?
Oh, it's just like this. It's mixed emotions, honestly, Gary, because in one way you're so excited, you're so happy, you're so grateful, and in the other way you're so pissed off that you've had to wait this long. So you feel bad saying it, but like I keep telling people, like, we waited 20 something years for this to happen, and I'm not just going to be happy that we're finally here. So I think about it, and as we were growing this campaign to make this whole world championship start, like, there's women that have played lacrosse that will never be a Hall of Famer because they never played box lacrosse, or there's awards and accolades and Legends Awards that will come out that when you try to put a woman's name on that ballot, you can't, because there's tournaments and provincials and national championships that they didn't get to win because they were never able to play. So yeah, it was mixed emotions, and I think that really empowered all of us to give our full 100%, knowing that we were playing for the past who never got to play, and how important it was to inspire that next generation.
Megan, what was your feeling? You finally get a chance, and finally the first whistle goes. What's the initial feeling?
Well, I took the first face off, and that was absolutely such an honor. And then 2 seconds later, Finland lays me the heck out.
I was on the catwalk just above. It was
honestly, like, I felt really grateful right before the whistle blew. I felt amazing when I got that ball on my stick, and then I felt humbled when I got laid out. You know, it was great.
Oh, where did that
I don't know. It was honestly sneak attack.
You got smoked.
Yeah, well, she came from a little bit off.
And that was like the first video that came out about the World Lacrosse like women's championships, and like Lacrosse Extras, who doesn't miss a beat. They're constantly like starting something, and they posted that right away. It was funny.
Obviously, you have to. Yeah,
Right.
so great emotions. Loved it.
Now, if I remember right, not long after that hit, Canada went down and scored, so it kind of alleviated a hit. But yeah, that was the first thing I had mentioned to people too. Was the first thing that I saw was face off, boom, and it wasn't Canada that made the hit. So, wow.
I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
I think it was good for the global growth, Megan. So you,
it was.
So thank you.
One for the team.
That's literally taking one for the team. Yes. Erin, what was it? I was watching the Netherlands USA game as well, and your guys' first game out. What was the feeling? It's finally happened.
I think you used the word euphoria. I was going to use that too. There's something about playing in that stadium, playing indoors. It was the first time we had played against women as a team. So that was an interesting feeling because we all really went in being like we didn't really know how strong we were. We didn't know because we were playing against men that are bigger than us the entirety of our training cycle. So a lot of question marks going into it. Certainly euphoria fits the bill for an adjective there. And then I think also just something to prove and that goes, it's a twofold meaning of what we're proving. One, USA box specifically, that's always historically been lagging behind Canada as the front runners. And then also women's box, where, Dana said it best that so many women ahead of us who played a lot longer than I have didn't have the opportunity to do so. So kind of an unconscious feeling of something to prove for them as well.
Right. Emily, your feelings. Finally get the whistle and away we go.
Yep, very similar to Bakes. As she mentioned, we trained against men, so there was that uncertainty piece there as where we would actually match up going into our first game against women. But there is a tremendous amount of emotion, a lot of excitement, obviously a lot of anticipation leading up to that moment. I know that our team, the amount of growth that we showed from start to finish was incredible. So to be able to now show the world, who Team 1 and who the U.S. women's box lacrosse team is, was very exciting. But we knew that it was also our job to be electric, knowing that we're with the rest of the countries at the World Championship, we're there to leave our mark. So the electric play going in, and I think, the first game, and it just continued to build as the games went on. But to then hear fans after say that they went into the arena to watch a men's game and they left the arena asking when U.S. women are playing again, because they walked by and in the first 2 minutes they saw our play and they were hooked. So I think that was also a big piece of it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I'm one of those people that I would be in to cover some of the men's games, and I found myself watching more women's games than I did of men's games, because the play was exciting. The play was, you can almost expect in the men's games where it's going to go, what's going to happen. Not so much with the women's games. You guys played with so much energy, so much emotion and intensity that it rubbed off on anybody who was in the crowd watching. And I bring back to the Canada-Netherlands game, in which, it was the lopsided score, but you would never know it with the crowd. it was the biggest party in town that night.
Yeah.
The crowd was wild, but that was the biggest party going on in town. And of course, that was the first goal scored on Canada, and I thought that they'd won the championship. It was fantastic. And you talked about the captain was her that scored.
Yeah.
Talk about leading by example. I had the Dutch coach on last week. He's an old friend of mine as well, R2. And if you want to have your rah kind of coach, that's him. And that was what that team needed. So with you guys, a little bit different because, of course, you guys are much more experienced. And of course, to set some blueprint. Was it difficult getting away being field players? Predominantly, I guess, more towards Erin and Emily, to get away from blueprint, more towards feeling in box, as opposed to blueprinted in field. Erin, we'll start with you.
I think there's a lot of aspects that translate, but for sure, I mean, there's always, you have these habits that might not translate, and I think we all found once we did get out of those habits and really start playing box. How much those things are going to help us on the field. You need all 5 players on the floor to be moving intentionally to get open and score a goal. So, taking that mentality to the field, we say all the time, all 7 people need to be playing together to score. In reality, 1v1s go sometimes, and it might not be all 7. And so I think the more that people can take, that mentality onto the field, it'll just elevate their game in that sense. But certainly would be lying if I didn't say that there was a little bit of a hump to get over just in terms of, switching over the mentality. For a long time, we weren't hitting hard enough. We were setting a pick and we were being a little too nice. That was another example that was just kind of something we had to unlearn because we all got so many yellow cards, to Dana's point. So I recently played in a women's field league and I did card out in the second half. But so got to work on translating and going back and forth, but definitely some things to unlearn and some things to learn. But we did a good job, staying the course.
Right. Emily?
Yes, exactly. The amount of growth, as mentioned before, was incredible for our team. The transition took a little bit more time for us, but I think we got to the point as a team where we came to the realization where we just had to play lacrosse. So like Bakes had mentioned, we play 7-on-7. We know that we're all working in flow together. We needed to get to that point, 5 on the floor for box, but we were constantly saying to each other, just play lacrosse. We're all elite athletes with experience playing lacrosse. As we continued to learn and get coached by the coaching staff that we did, but to learn the intricacies of the box game and then just rely on us as lacrosse players, take those intricacies and, with time, we did make that shift and, you could call us those box players who really understood that game well, but in that transition and making it over, that hump, it was, just play lacrosse.
Right. It's a very good point. Sometimes we overthink ourselves. Just play. Leave your abilities to go and do it. That's a really great point. Megan, you played an awful lot of box with the Salmon Bellies, with ALL. Did you find this a little different?
It was different in the sense that the competition level where certain teams wasn't as high as say Coquitlam versus New West games back home. It was different in the sense some teams didn't know, position wise where they should go sometimes, or, we did a hidden ball trick and they're still staring at me or whatever. So not to just, not to down anyone else's game, but just the level of competition with certain teams was a bit less. But overall, it was really well played with all the teams, and kudos to everyone for putting on a great experience.
Right. Dana, where does this rank in your experiences?
Yeah. I think it has to be the number one most memorable, and it's so difficult to have had such a high goal for ourselves and to not achieve it, but like that's sport, and that's what keeps us like coming back and wanting to get better. And I can remember my first world championship, Canada versus USA, and I think we lost by like 20 something goals, and we were Netherlands cheering for our first goal within that game. And that was so special. And you just don't know how great you can be until you play against the best. And I think that's what makes this box world championship just so high on my list of highlights within my career, because I think we showed the world, you know, without opportunity, without belief, and without people thinking that girls might want to do this, you know, we defied all those odds. We found a way, we made it happen. We continued to fight for this opportunity and this chance. And like you saw, Gary, people were hooked.
Yep.
People love it. They want a Canada USA rivalry series. They want to see the best out of 7. Like it's just so cool to see in such a short period of time the minds that we changed and the players that we inspired. So definitely highest on my list of world championships.
That's a great point, because you take a look back in the 70s and the 80s when we had that with the men trying to get the game moved, you know, with best of 7s and all the other things. I think it's time that happens now with the women's game, because I think there's an audience. Funny enough, you know, with the PLL announcement yesterday of WLL, I already had a question written down. Do you think that we have the makings that we could do a WNLL box, never mind field, box, and have something like the way the women's hockey has jumped on, because it's caught wildfire. You can't get a ticket in Toronto for a game. It's sold out already for next year.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. It's taken this long for that to happen. But you know, with the iron hot as it is, I really do think it's time that we push it forward. Do you think that this is something that we can pursue? I'm going to start with you, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, big announcement yesterday, but I think that announcement just goes to women's sports as a whole and the opportunity that's there. And, you know, with the resources that are out there and just the investment, you know, you look at what happened yesterday, the investment of the PLL, you know, investing in the women's game and launching WLL. And I promise you the product that you will see in February is going to be incredible. So yes, I think there's absolutely an opportunity. And I think, like you said, it's hot now. And we're ready and we're here, and you know, it's time to do it. But to hear even yesterday the excitement still towards the box game and have that be brought up at NASDAQ about the box lacrosse world championship, you know, people are talking about it and the time is now.
Well, let's not fool ourselves. Rabel's no dummy. He waited to see how the world championships went and how it would be, the response was, and seeing how good it was. Then he went with this one, because he could have announced this 2 months ago. So you guys are pioneers in not just box, but I think in all lacrosse aspects. And I think that should be a feather in your caps, all of you. Erin, the same question as to you.
Yeah, certainly I think something we can pursue with, you know, the caveat that kind of fast following the model of like PLL and NLL now, where you have guys that are able to do both. I think we don't need to pigeonhole any lacrosse player into a specific discipline. I think playing every discipline or multiple disciplines is only going to elevate the level of competition in the other. So as long as, you know, it can be conducive to still having a career as a pro field player, I think it's certainly something we could pursue. I also think that it would allow for more women to be full-time lacrosse players, as opposed to you know, choosing between a career in the corporate life, where, you know, there's simply not enough out there right now where you can make a living and be just, you know, one league in the AU league. Not that I play, I wouldn't know, but but I do know that, and everyone else that's a pro full-time lacrosse player, they have so many other things going on. We got on the call and everyone's alluding to how Dana and Megan and Emily are never home, because there's so much else going on when you're a full-time lacrosse player. And I think it would just, you know, allow for more people to live that life that want to, without cannibalizing the other league. As long as they can exist together and elevate each other, then certainly something we can pursue. And it would definitely be my dream. And I'd probably put in my 2 weeks if it came to fruition.
Megan, do you think this is something that is sustainable quickly, or do we have the usual lacrosse growing pains?
I think if we hopped on it now, like, why not? You know, there, especially with the excitement of the World Cup ending recently, like, there's this, like Emily said, the time is now. And I think like girls around the world would be open to coming to Canada or the States to play professionally if there was that league. I know I talked to Kayla Wood a couple weeks ago, and she mentioned that she would totally move to Canada to come play professional box lacrosse. And that just goes to show, like, everyone is obsessed with this game and people love it. And why not create a platform for women to play professionally?
Absolutely. Now with sixes coming up for the Olympics, I'm sure that most all of you are going to be involved in one way or another with the national teams for that. That is in my opinion, the one that jettisons lacrosse from already on the second, third, fourth floor to way up over here, because now you get an extra 280 countries getting to view it, both men and women. What are we doing right now, getting ready for that? We only have a couple of minutes, so I want to go around the table pretty quickly. Dana?
Yeah, I think what we're doing is we're just trying to get lacrosse out there. And the one thing I just wanted to touch on, Gary, and this is a little bit different, but outside of sixes, box lacrosse is the only discipline where women can be as athletic as they actually are. So, you know, there's restrictions in field lacrosse, a lot of restrictions. And then in sixes, it's a hybrid. So you're kind of pulled back a little bit. But box lacrosse, for the NLL to think about doing a WLL in the indoor side, is, you know, it's the only discipline where you can hit as hard as you possibly can hit. You can shoot from anywhere as hard as you can shoot. And I just think that excitement really showed the world, you know, how great women's lacrosse players actually are, and just the creativity, skill, and power that we truly have. So what we're doing now to grow the game and to get to that world stage, and to have a lacrosse player stand on an Olympic podium, putting a gold medal around their neck, is just showing these kids around the world that they could be the first Olympian, just like we were the first women's box players. And I think that's something that has so much power and so excitement.
Right. Emily?
Absolutely. I think Dana just nailed it. Continuing the exposure, continuing to inspire, and it's a big win for the sport of lacrosse to see that on the Olympic stage.
Erin?
I think it's the best thing that could, you know, spark growth in the developing countries. It's kind of just more reason now to invest and grow the game there. So I'm excited to see how that comes to fruition. I think a lot of the preparation is, you know, you see a lot of marketing initiatives around it. You obviously see the sixes game growing in terms of now there's high school tournaments around it, et cetera. And, you know, the pinnacle of your sport is playing for your national team. So I think we can expect that the sixes discipline is definitely going to grow leading up to the Olympics. And it's important to acknowledge how similar the systems are in sixes and box. And, you know, box can be something that is beneficial to being a sixes player directly with how you're moving, et cetera. Obviously, the rules are a little bit different, but from an IQ standpoint, super similar. So, you know, I love box to death. If I could switch sixes with box in the Olympics, my personal choice would be to. But I do acknowledge that I think that the smaller format of the field game is going to be, you know, catalyze some growth for the box game as well. So just all around excited and grateful to be a part of it right now.
Right. Megan, we'll end with you.
Sure. Yeah. So I definitely think the sixes game is exciting, fast paced, but box lacrosse, you know, has a little bit more than that, I think. But definitely with sixes, you know, it needs to grow worldwide, and hopefully with like our box lacrosse events and sixes events happening in the States and Canada, we can grow worldwide. And yeah, I would say it also needs to happen at like a grassroots level too. So being in, elementary schools, I just got an invitation to go to an elementary school and teach lacrosse in a couple weeks. So gonna be growing the game hopefully at the grassroots level as well. And yeah, just major exposure for the game for it to grow.
Absolutely. Well, it has been my absolute pleasure to have all of you guys on. I was in awe watching you guys play, and I'm even more in awe talking with you guys and hearing all the cerebral stuff behind the scenes and everything that went in and everything that's gone on. And feel free to reach out, and I would be happy to market anything you guys are doing along the way to get this thing moving. As Michelle will attest to, I'm a huge proponent of getting the women's game going and moving. And anything you guys need to get it helped, I'm all there for you.
Awesome,
Thank you.
Gary. Thanks for
We
having us.
sincerely appreciate it.
All right. This show can also be heard on Spanglish World Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish Sports World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Until next week, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week at 4 p.m.